This game was wild from start to finish. The Habs come out on the losing end of a very winnable game with some really high highs and some really low lows. I'll be getting into everything on this game reaction edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's game reaction edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and that was a wild game. Like I said, from start to finish, the Habs come out with the loss 5-3 at the hands of the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl each put up 4 points, but the game wasn't as one-sided as the score sheet may show. Montreal was in this game from the opening whistle right until the final buzzer, and I really think that if one or two things went Montreal's way, this game was winnable. So, of course, Montreal comes out in this game, and they managed to finally score the first goal of the game. It wasn't something that we haven't done a whole lot this season, but I believe, as the announcers were talking about, this was Montreal, this season when Montreal scores first, they're 7-0 when taking a lead after the first period. So it meant not if they just score first, but if they have a lead in the first period and they carry that over to the second, they win the games. And they were really dominating the first period, not only offensively, but defensively. I mean, it was Matheson, Kovacevic, Goulet. They were shutting down the likes of McDavid and Draisaitl. Some great defensive plays to stop breaks. Xhekaj looked as poised as I've ever seen him on the ice there tonight. It was a really strong start to the game, and it paid off because we got a power play, and who else but Nick Suzuki pots another one for Montreal, our best goal scorer so far this season. Of course, Caulfield's a more talented goal scorer, and what's funny is if you didn't catch that play, if you maybe didn't watch the game, Suzuki made a beautiful cross-ice pass to Caulfield, who just fanned on the puck. He had a wide open net. There was no one covering it, and he just fanned on it, chipped it just over, but guess what happened? Suzuki got it back right on the other side, sniped it. Bullet of a shot, short side on Stuart Skinner to make it 1-0 Montreal. But here's the thing that I wanted to get into, and this is the main part of this recap, I think, because this right here and the events following what happened here, this stretch of maybe 10 minutes of game time, maybe not even that, is what cost Montreal this game. So, right after Suzuki scores, not right after, a few minutes after, maybe even just a couple minutes, Xhekaj takes an incredibly ill-advised tripping penalty. Now, I love Xhekaj. He's in the thumbnail tonight because he scored a goal, and I thought he looked really good, minus this play. Because the reason the title is Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Xhekaj kind of exhibited a bit of all of that tonight. He had a couple of miscues here and there, but he scored a goal, but he spurred Edmonton's momentum, and it was his play that kind of caused Edmonton to get back into the game. Again, I love Xhekaj, but I got to point this out. Soon after Suzuki scored, of course, Xhekaj just has it behind the net as he's kind of just waiting for a change and about to send it off up to the wing, and McDavid's pressuring him hard, as Connor McDavid does. He's a solid forechecker, and he's in there kind of pestering Xhekaj. What does Xhekaj do? He gets a stick in the skates, kind of tries to pester McDavid back, trips him up. Now, McDavid fell a little easy, as he did a couple times this game, but it's still a tripping penalty. You have to call that. Xhekaj goes to the box. That was with 30 seconds left in the first, but you knew that power play was going to carry over into the second, and boy, did it ever. The start of the second period is where this game was completely lost for Montreal. I mean, we managed to come back, of course, but if it wasn't for these couple minutes, Montreal would have dominated this game from start to finish, and I honestly think they could have easily won 3 or 4-1, maybe 3 or 4-2 if we got a couple other penalties. But so here's what happened. It's just frustrating that another penalty cost Montreal. So Xhekaj is in the box, right? And nearing the end of Xhekaj's penalty at the start of the second period, because it carried over, Joel Edmundson gets a penalty on sort of a phantom call. He was complaining about it. We didn't really see too much of it on the feed, at least that I was watching. But Edmundson got called for something, and he went to the box. And as Xhekaj's penalty expired and Edmundson was still in the box, the Oilers score. The Oilers have one of the best power plays in the NHL. I mean, you have McDavid, you have Draisaitl, but it was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins potting that first goal to tie the game, and you're like, uh-oh, things are about to get bad. And guess what happened then? Doc comes down, kind of holds McDavid a little bit, and he thought McDavid dove on the play, which maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's really hard to tell. Hockey's such a fast game. Kirby Dach was right keeping up with McDavid on a sort of sprint from his own zone, so it was good on Dach to stay there with him, but McDavid was creating contact, Dach was trying to stop him, and the ref eventually gave the call to the superstar, as it often goes in the NHL. So, you sort of take those penalties. Dach was not happy with it, but what do you do? The problem is, right after that, Joel Edmundson had a dirty play. I'm just going to say it. I'm not saying it was an intentional dirty play. Of course it wasn't. There was no intent to injure Zach Hyman, but what he did really doesn't have any place in the game, and he deserved to be kicked out, in my opinion. Share your opinions below, because I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with this, but Joel Edmundson and Zach Hyman kind of go into the boards. Edmundson loves to throw crosschecks. We saw it in the playoffs in that Stanley Cup final run. We saw it last season. He loves to throw these, not like full-on, just like shot crosschecks. He likes to ride the stick into your back and shove you forward. And that's what he did into the boards. He did that into the boards, and he went to do it again, and it rode up Hyman's shoulder, right into Hyman's helmet, and then he ended up pinning Hyman's head and face right at the base of the glass, right on the corner of the boards. He pinned Hyman's face with the stick. And to be honest, it was not intentional. Obviously, his stick rode up and it hit Hyman in the helmet. You actually see Edmundson arguing, saying it was just his shoulder. But upon replay review, it definitely was not. Edmundson didn't really have a lot to say when he was going off the ice. I'm sure he saw the replay. Not a great play. They gave him a 5-minute major and tossed him from the game. You could argue that it was maybe just a double minor or just a 5-minute major, no game misconduct, because, maybe we've seen some similar plays before that didn't get a, full-on ejection from the game. But leave me your opinions in the comments. Regardless, Montreal was left to kill a 5-minute major from Joel Edmundson, while Kirby Dach had just gone to the box. So Edmonton essentially got a full 2 minutes, or at least a minute and a half, of 5-on-3 time, and it's Edmonton. You expect them to score, and score they did. I believe it was Draisaitl, that first one. It was a one-time shot. I can't remember. Edmonton scored so many goals in the power play tonight, but of course Draisaitl had one, and McDavid had one later. But man, it was that. It was just so frustrating that happened with Dach, and then just a little while after again, while Montreal was still trying to kill off this brutal 5-minute penalty, Nick Suzuki does something extremely uncharacteristic. I've never seen him do anything that stupid in his career, honestly. And I think he even realized, he was kind of like, oh, what did I just do? The puck kind of came to him, and I think he sort of panicked in a second. Like, he kind of had his hand ready for the puck, and as it kind of landed in his hand, I think his instinct was to grab it, but I don't know what he thought. He just took the puck and threw it forward. He just closed his hand on the puck and just threw it underhand in front of him, which is a penalty. You can't close your hand on the puck. I mean, they allow you to kind of grab the puck and lay it at your feet. They give you that, sure, but you can't throw it. You can't grab it and throw it. It's straight up a penalty. There was no argument whatsoever. I think Suzuki just was sort of shocked that even he did that. Rare mistake from our captain. But guess what? It allowed another power play and another Oilers goal. Just penalty after penalty after penalty. And not only are these penalties, remember, Joel Edmundson is now out of the game, so Montreal was down to 5 defensemen just a couple minutes into the second period. So the last 35, 38 minutes, we're done with just 5 defensemen. Caden Gooley, David Savard, Mike Matheson, Jonathan Kovacevic, and Arbor Xhekaj. And Montreal comes out of all this just down 3-1. It's honestly a miracle that they were only down 3-1 after having to deal with multiple Edmonton 5-on-3s and power plays. The penalty kill was solid. We did a pretty good job of limiting the damage. If you look at Jake Allen's stats tonight, they're not amazing because he ended up letting in, 5 goals on 22, 23 shots. But let's be honest, when it's the Edmonton power play coming hard at you, it's really hard to stop those. Those first 3 goals were all power play goals from Edmonton's number 1 power play unit. And Allen did what he could. Just wasn't enough, unfortunately. But Montreal comes out of that down 3-1. And that was the turning point of the game, because it brought us down to 5 defensemen, and we just had to deal with an onslaught from Edmonton. We were exhausted, and those goals could have been prevented. They were very preventable. That first penalty from Xhekaj that kind of spurred this whole thing, totally preventable, totally ill-advised, and he's done that. Not just him, Montreal. I know not all of you watch all these game recaps, because let's be honest, it's a lot to watch. But if you miss the games and you want to come here and watch me do these, me or Jesse or both of us, you know that it's one of the most frustrating things to me when Montreal, because they've done this time and time and time again this season, they get a goal, they get all the momentum. They had all the momentum in the first period, and it is just taken away by a bad penalty that just swings the momentum the complete opposite direction. Montreal starts to get frustrated. We take some more bad penalties, and it just spirals out of control. And like I said, we were lucky we were only down 3-1. We managed to claw back later in that period. It was Mike Matheson's. By the way, this was, I think, Mike Matheson's best game of the season by far. He looked phenomenal skating tonight. He had multiple end-to-end rushes. He was often behind the net on offense. He was some really, really smooth plays, especially against McDavid and some other Oilers forwards defensively. I thought he looked awesome tonight, and it was one of his best shifts, I thought, was in that second period when we were down 3-1. He took the puck from our own end all the way up the ice, and he almost did a forehand to backhand deke goal, like end-to-end rush. But his stick was lifted last second, so he couldn't get his stick down to lift the puck on the backhand. But he had Skinner beat. He just got his stick lifted, and it is what it is. But man, he played so well in that second period. And actually around that time, I believe it was a bit before that, it was Evgeny Dadonov, a guy who has really been underperforming, a guy that Jesse, in our video of the best and worst Habs this season, Jesse had as Dadonov as someone that he was a little disappointed with so far this season, and rightfully so. Dadonov has not been producing at the level we've expected, but he finally potted a goal tonight. It was right off a rebound, right into the slot. He was in the perfect place, and it worked out really well to bring Montreal back within a goal. And again, guess what? Montreal gets a goal, and we kept pressing. We had the momentum. We had the momentum from the start of the game, and after we finished those penalties, we got back to full strength, down 3-1. We brought the momentum back again. Reminder, we outshot Edmonton pretty badly tonight. It was something like, 33 or 34 to 22, something like that. Which is not something we've done often this season. And to hold a team like Edmonton to 20-something shots after going into Calgary and allowing over 40 against us, 46 I believe, is really impressive defensively. I thought we did a pretty good job, of course, other than on the PK, of keeping Edmonton away from the net. And I'm not saying our PK was bad, because it was fine. It was whatever. It was just Edmonton's power play. But I just meant at even strength, our defense looked really, really good. But yeah, so Dadonov scores. Matheson is rushing. And man, to cap off that second period, there was no better feeling than seeing Arber Xhekaj score another goal. I mean, he gets at the point. Montreal is on the power play, and he sees... actually, it was a 5-on-3. This was a really lucky break. Montreal got a 5-on-3 for 11 seconds, and they win the puck back. Xhekaj to Slafkovsky to Xhekaj, and he sees there's some traffic. And he just whips it right at the net, right through the traffic. It's his specialty. Just taking it from the point, maybe a step or two in, and just firing a hard wrister through traffic. And he has this magical touch that allows the puck to get through traffic and go into the net. And him able to score goals like that consistently this year, is that his fourth goal this season? It's such a game changer for Montreal to have someone that can do that. He's been so impressive. The announcers, who are typically the Edmonton announcers that were, if you were watching the feed on Sportsnet 360 tonight, they were super impressed, saying that Xhekaj is maybe their new favorite player in the NHL. And he scores a great goal, assisted by Slafkovsky on that second power play unit. But not only that, it kept Montreal essentially on a full power play for the next 2 minutes, because we scored 10 seconds into that 11-second 5-on-3. So Xhekaj scores. We're super pumped. That's why he's in the thumbnail. He had some highs and some lows tonight. He was all over everything, right? If you looked at this game, Arber Xhekaj is the one player you were focused on. At least he was the one I was focused on for this whole game, for his mistakes, but also his positives. And it would have been great. It would have been great to come out of that second period with a lead. But Jonathan Kovacevic, with one of the more frustrating plays I've seen this season. With just about 7 or 8 seconds left, the puck is coming down into Montreal's end. It's 3-3. It's a tie game, don't forget. It's coming into Montreal's end behind Jake Allen on the boards. Kovacevic probably should have just ate it. He probably should have just gone up into the boards, pinned himself against the boards, and let the clock run out for the second period. But he decides to play the puck with just a few seconds left. And he slips, he falls. There was a banana peel or something on the ground, I don't know. He just falls and whiffs on playing the puck. And who else is there but our old Leafs enemy, Zach Hyman, to come in, scoop the puck up, make a beautiful pass, and Darnell Nurse is right in the slot for an easy little chip-in goal over Jake Allen's blocker with no one covering him to make it 4-3 Edmonton with 4.3 seconds left in the second period. And I knew when that happened, if Montreal didn't come out hard in the third period, this game was probably over, because that is such a killer. You're down 3-1 after taking so many penalties, but you fight your way back. You make it 3-3. You get a goal from a kid, one of the guys who is the sparks, the heart of this team, and Arber Xhekaj. You're so short-handed with your players. Gallagher is out, Hoffman's out, and you lose Joel Edmundson for the whole game after a penalty earlier in the second, and you tie it, and you give it all away. At the end of the second period, Darnell Nurse pots one. And to be honest, I mean, you might have seen me looking down at my phone a lot. I mean, like I said, I got these notes here because it's hard to, like, remember everything all at once. But the third period, I didn't have a ton of notes. To be honest, it was a very even third period, I thought. I thought Montreal was doing pretty well. I thought they played really, really well. And Edmonton played well too. And it was just, there was nothing really there. I mean, Allen made some great saves. Skinner wasn't really tested that much, even though we had a lot of shots. A lot of them kind of came from far out, maybe on the rush, little kick save here, little glove save there. We were putting lots of shots on the net, but our scoring chances were kind of few and far between, right? And we just couldn't get anything going in the third. Now, I will say, with the net empty, we had some good chances, but, I mean, in that third, of course, we gave up a breakaway to Connor McDavid on a bad change. Matheson couldn't get there. Savard was turned around, and when you have McDavid on a breakaway, it's basically automatic, and that sealed the deal. You can't allow that. You can't allow a McDavid breakaway, but sometimes you can't help it. He's that fast. But it was a bad change from Montreal, and as soon as that happened, I mean, I was already pretty sure it was over. Montreal pressed pretty well in the third, actually, and Edmonton was kind of back and forth, but there were no significant chances really. I mean, Armia actually did have one. And the man who just can't buy a goal, he rang the crossbar, bar down, but just not into the net. I was behind Skinner. Everyone thought it was going to go in, and Montreal did have another scramble in front with the net empty, but they couldn't pot one in the third. They couldn't come back. Edmonton was like, okay, we need to work defensively to stop these guys, and so they did. Montreal ends up losing the game 5-3 on the back of 3 Edmonton power play goals, all early in the second period, and finally capped off by a horrible, horrible goal given up at the end of the second, and a McDavid breakaway in the third that you just kind of can't stop. So what do we learn from this game? Well, FOR XHEKAJ is all over the place. He's always all over the score sheet. He had a massive hit on, I believe, Janmark. Just crunched him into the boards. He had a goal tonight, but he had the tripping penalty that kind of spurred this downward spiral out of control for Montreal that sort of started the events that led to the downfall in this game. Because, to be honest, like I said, if we don't have that bad stretch at the start of the second period, end of the first period, Montreal probably wins this game. We outshot Edmonton. I thought we outplayed them for most of the game. Yes, we gave up a couple even strength goals, some bad ones, but even if they score those, and we still score our 3 goals, Montreal wins this 3-2. Like, it was just those 3 power play goals. That little stretch of like 5 minutes in the second period, 10 minutes in the second period, that lost Montreal this game. I think that was a winnable game. I don't think that was a bad loss. I think it was just a few bad plays that all had really bad outcomes. Because Montreal 5-on-5 tonight looked really good. Our power play looked phenomenal tonight. Our power play looked really, really good. I don't know if that's just because Edmonton has a bottom 5 penalty kill in the NHL, which they do. They're not a very good penalty killing team. So maybe they made Montreal look better than they have in the past, but Montreal's power play looked good tonight. Our penalty kill, even though we gave up a lot of penalties, was not that bad. And on 5-on-5, we looked great. The Slafkovsky experiment with Sean Monahan and Josh Anderson continues to roll. I thought he had a worse game today than he did last game. I think he tried to do a little too much tonight. He's still on the second line. He's still trying to learn a bit more. He's excited, right? And you can see that in his game. He really wants to break out of the zone. He wants to shoot the puck. He wants to do everything. But sometimes you just have to find your spots. And he's going to slowly learn that. Remember, guys, he's 18 years old. Look at the amount of other 18-year-old prospects that are out there that people kind of gave up on early. Not that you guys are giving up on him, because I certainly am not. He's extremely confident. He has a goal-scoring touch. Things will start falling together soon, and I think this is the line that's going to do it. And again, Montreal was a bit shorthanded tonight. The fourth line of Pezzetta, Evans, and Pitlick was just not amazing. Nothing really going there. And Armia and Dadonov with Dvorak. It's just, I mean, they scored a goal tonight. I'll give him that. Armia got an assist on a Dadonov goal. Armia was the one that shot it for the rebound. And Armia had another crossbar chance, but scoring depth. Our first line looked amazing tonight again. We did get that goal from the other boys, but man, it's just a tough game. After that Edmundson penalty, it just felt like Montreal was going to have a huge hill to climb, and they climbed it just to fall right off a cliff at the end of it, to give up that goal to Nurse and that goal to McDavid in the third period to seal it. But there were some great lessons learned. Montreal played a great 5-on-5 game. They played good overall, I think. This game was very winnable. It's one of those games that you look back on the season and you probably don't really remember that well. It was a fun game, a fast game. I really enjoyed watching it. I hope you guys did too. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this recap. We have them for every single game. Not always the night of like tonight, but sometimes like the Calgary game, we'll have to do them the day after because myself and Jesse aren't on Eastern time. We're further east than that, so the games are a lot later for us than it might be for you guys who are watching. But anyway, that'll do it for this game reaction edition of Habs Digest as the Habs lose to the Oilers 5-3. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going for 5,000 subs. We really, really want you guys to subscribe. You guys have been loving the content. You guys have been hitting the subscribe button like crazy. And yeah, I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I hope to catch you in the next one.